상상에 알몸을 까놓고 하루 종일
Yo, what is up everyone on YouTube? Welcome back. And I know I've been gone for a while, haven't done any reviews, but I have been reading and doing the challenges. So over this next week, you're gonna see a fuck ton of videos come out because I've pretty much completed the challenges for May. Well, I'm 2 days away, so I'll basically give you a status update on those challenges, as well as the books I've been reading while I've been vacationing in Korea, as well as my little video I made while I was in Korea. Korea was a huge amount of fun. I got a lot of. It was really good to travel and just be. I went there with my mom. It was nice to kind of be isolated from my social circles and the outside world, and just just be in a different place for a while. So the book I want to review today is Mating in Captivity. Now, this is a book by Esther Perel. I guess she's a relationship therapist, and she also had a TED Talk on infidelity. So basically cheating. And I don't remember how I was recommended this book, but I decided to pick it up because I'm super interested in human beings, in social relationships, and especially intimate relationships. They just fascinate me. I just find it very, very interesting how these dynamics sort of work. So reading that book, as well, for my own selfish reasons, I want to in the future have a sustainable relationship that doesn't end up with like you have 5 kids and you never have sex and you just want a divorce but you can't. That sounds pretty shitty to me. So there's a lot of really interesting points in this book, but let me just go over the first really big ones. And the first one point that Esther makes is how the idea of romance or the idea of relationships has changed over time. So for example, in the beginnings of time, people didn't really have a concept of romance. People married into other people's families for power, for status, or to bridge an alliance. Like that's what kings and queens did not too long ago, really, in the medieval ages. And so she talks about how romance and the idea of romance, of falling in love for love, is a pretty new concept. And she also talks about how the social systems that we used to rely on back in the day, such as our community or our extended families, we no longer derive from those social systems. Like most people live in only their close families, like your mom, dad, and maybe your siblings. So what this leads to is an overall added pressure to intimate relationships, because now instead of you getting feelings of closeness or having certain social relationships with your extended family or your community, you want to get all those things from your intimate relationship instead. So instead of you maybe talking to your grandma about your problems, you want to talk to your spouse or your husband. As well, the idea of falling in love for the sake of love, while she says that in itself is not a detriment, it says that sometimes people can overlook certain qualities in people that they may actually be incompatible with. But she doesn't really go into that much into incompatible couples too much. She just points to that idea, and mostly the book is about the idea of separating intimacy from our bullshit stories about what we think intimacy is. For example, in the book itself, Esther points to it's basically written in a fashion where she shares some of the couple's problems and her solutions and how they approached it. Now, again, in the book it says not every couple can reach a solution, and in certain cases, again, it's just better to split it off. But the book does give some insights into how we work as human beings and how when two people come together, their dynamics shift. So one of the key things is that passion is not related to intimacy. That's a key. A lot of times we think that the more you get to know someone, the more passionate you'll be. Passion to put it simply, is things like arousal, any sort of sexual energy. But even then, she says that passion is not necessarily sexual as well. A lot of times, like I said, you think that living close to someone will bring more passion, but she says that oftentimes couples will actually break up when they move in together because intimacy is not the same thing as passion. She says that in the book, the dilemma is that we have this desire for intimacy, getting to know the other person and wanting to share ourselves as well. But she says that certain aspects of passion are caused by mystery. So when you're first dating someone for the first time, you're somewhat obsessed about them because you don't know them. You want to see them again because you're curious as to what they can offer you. And what she says is that as couples grow closer, or people in any relationship grow closer, they start to lose that passion because they have an increase of intimacy. So there's this paradox between passion and intimacy in all of these loving relationships. Now, another interesting point she makes, and she makes this as a couples therapist, is that she finds that a lot of people who lose that passion in their relationships come to us to try to find that passion. But she says herself that trying to work on passion or find passion is one of the worst ways to kill passion, because passion is, again, not a intellectual or logical thing, it's an emotional thing. So trying to figure it out and see, okay, where did the passion die, she says, could not be there could be nothing worse. So that might sound like a paradox, like, okay, she's a relationship counselor, how the fuck does she solve this problem? Well, what she likes to use is the word play. So she wants to invite people who lose passion in their relationships to find play in their life. So instead of looking at as work, as, okay, I gotta fucking, take this person out on a date, or I have to dress up, she wants people to look at it as something that's fun and playful. And again, she says that due to the way that we're wired in society, we always look at things from a resourceful view, like how much time will this take, how much money this will take. But she said that this is the exact mindset that brings us away from passion, away from actually enjoying our close, intimate relationships, and overthinking them and making them into basically dead, emotionless nothing. One of the coolest things that I found in this book was the idea of, how I would say it is the idea of polarity, but what she writes about is erotic intelligence. To put it simply, a lot of people are very uncomfortable with their sexuality. So she gives many cases in where a lot of partners feel very uncomfortable with what they want sexually, or they feel uncomfortable with what the other person wants sexually. And she says that this is often due to a misconception of what we believe sexuality to be. For example, she gives in the book a businesswoman who she was consoling, because she considered herself to be like an alpha, a very hardworking, dominant woman, and she rose to be a CEO. She came from like nothing, and she attributed her assertiveness and her dominance to her success. And that woman was struggling a lot with letting go sexually in an intimate relationship, because she felt embarrassed when people that she had dated would basically dominate her in the bedroom, even though that's what she wanted. It's as she said in the book, this businesswoman wanted an intimate and passionate experience where she could just kind of lay back. The man could pick the restaurants, or kind of take over in the bedroom. But she was so embarrassed to express that she would end up always planning everything and doing everything, even though that's not what she wanted. And so all her relationships ended up being very unfulfilling, and she wouldn't be able to hold them for very long. So by getting that woman to slowly accept that polarity, that, hey, you know what, your intimate and sexual relationships do not always mirror your professional relationships, she was able to help that woman resolve that and experience both the dominance in her career life, but also submission in her passionate and sexual life. Now, this also works on the flip side, where she was able to console couples where the man would want to be submissive and did not like to have to play that dominant role, but the woman in that relationship was uncomfortable with that decision of the man because she felt that all men should be macho and masculine. So again, it's a super fascinating book in that it shows how we as a society view certain roles of men and women and our uncomfortability when people have these seemingly flip sides or mirror opposites of their personality. Like, people are all different in different aspects of their life. You could be super shy at school, but let's say you skateboard, you could be super confident at skateboarding. So I found that super interesting that she went over that in the book. And the term that she uses over and over again is something called erotic intelligence. Being able to distinguish what you yourself as a person sexually, and intimately, as well as yourself in a career mode or any other area of your life. She says that not all areas of your life will sync up. You're different people at different times. And I thought that was really fascinating advice, not even for relationships, but sometimes we can get confused as to why we're acting certain ways, but it's nothing wrong with us. It's just the way people are. We just act different ways in different situations. And there's also a section in here about parenting. Obviously, I'm not a parent, but you know, who knows? I may be a parent soon. So I also found it interesting how she writes about children. While they may build intimacy in the relationship, they may actually decrease passion, because she writes that, you know what, at the end of the day, people do get jealous of their children. Your husband could get jealous of the time that you are spending with the kids, or your wife could get jealous with the time that you're spending with the kids and not giving to her. So in this book, she gives examples also of deeper psychological issues. For instance, there was a couple where the man could not get aroused after his wife had given birth, and when they delved deep into it, it was because the guy had an unresolved feeling towards his mother, and by working through that, he was basically able to accept that he's not fucking his mom, he's fucking his wife. That's pretty much what they had to resolve. So that's pretty much the main points of the book, and it's a super fascinating book. If you're interested in relationships or even how people work, I think this is one of the sexuality, passion, things like that are super taboo in our society. And I think that if you really want to get to learn people and how people think, nothing can reveal more than having two people be in an intimate relationship and dissect that relationship, because that's two people doing one of the most taboo things, which is talk openly about the sexuality. So if you're interested at all about dating, or you want to just even learn more about how we as human beings think, I definitely recommend you pick up this book. Now, on the downside, this book is, again, heavily about relationships and social interaction. So if you're interested in things like making money, it's probably not going to help you. It might help you indirectly, but it's not gonna, there's nothing like that in this book. And in terms of like, it doesn't really go into technical details on how yourself can resolve your own problems, but it may help you to realize those problems. That may be a solution in itself. As well, the book, while it is ordered in there is a certain structure to it, it's not a very specific structure, because she just kind of goes over a subject for a little while, and then it goes into segments where she gives examples of couples that she's interviewed or counseled. So if you're someone who likes books to be more technical, this is not a book for you. This is a more of an emotional book. That being said, it's not that this book is not without its sciences and its technical things. But again, if you were like a book that likes step by step, step 1, 7 ways to have the perfect marriage, this is not a book for you. This is more of I find this book to be more philosophical and theoretical. Does that mean that this book is less important than any scientific books or 7 steps to have a perfect marriage? No, it does not, but it's just a different type of book. That's my review of this book. Overall, I would recommend it to people, and I found it a surprisingly easy read just because I like reading stories, so it was a fun book to read. The next book I'm going to review is actually Kon-Tiki, which is a book recommended on Tai Lopez's book club. So check that out. I'll be posting that really shortly. Thanks for watching, and as always, just have a great day.